This conference will now be recorded.
Greetings. I'd like to open the City Council July 20th, 2020 meeting and call to order at 7 p.m.
Real briefly, Mayor.
Yes.
Councilor Allen, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, are you ready to continue, Stephanie? Okay.
Yes.
If everyone is able to rise, I'd like to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to accept the agenda for tonight?
I move to accept the agenda.
Is there a second?
Councilor Webb will second.
Call the roll, please, Stephanie.
Councilor Wagner?
Aye.
Councilor Webb?
Aye.
Councilor Allen?
Aye.
Mayor Hobart?
Aye.
Councilor McNair?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. There are no presentations tonight. I just have a quick report tonight. I just want to thank the citizens of Vernonia for continuing to do their part in observing the 6-foot social distancing and wearing masks when appropriate. Our numbers have, as of today in Columbia County, are 61, I believe, 61. They have gone up a couple, about 20 or so in the last 2 weeks, but we're relatively low compared to the other counties. And I just wanted to say, keep up the good work, and just wanted to thank the citizens for doing their part. And that's all I have on that. There are no council committee meeting reports. Are there any topics from the floor tonight, Stephanie?
There are not.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we'll move right into our public hearing. This public hearing is now open at 7:05 p.m. on July 20th, 2020, for consideration of a proposed zoning code amendment, file number PA 20-02. The order of hearing. The public hearing will follow a certain order. It is, staff will present a staff report of the proposal. Next, testimony will be allowed for those in favor of the proposal, following with testimony in opposition of the proposal, then comments that are neither in favor nor against the application. Staff will then have an opportunity for rebuttal. No new evidence will be allowed during rebuttal. Therefore, it is important that you clearly and concisely state your full testimony at the time you are allowed to speak. Each speaker will step to the dais and clearly state his or her name and mailing address for the record prior to your testimony. No speaker will be interrupted except for questions by city council members. No testimony will be entered into the record if spoken from the position of the general audience. Those participating in the hearing will have the opportunity to request a continuance to address any new evidence submitted in favor of the application, or if time does not allow testimony to be completed at this hearing. If no continuance is requested, those participating will have the opportunity to request that the record be kept open for at least 7 days to allow for written rebuttal or of testimony presented at this hearing. Otherwise, the hearing will be closed and the matter will be returned to the hearing body for deliberation. Does any counselor have any ex parte content to declare?
Yeah, Mayor, just for the record, Roy Thomas is my next door neighbor.
Okay. Was that recorded then, Stephanie?
Yes.
Okay. Does any member of the hearing body have a conflict of interest to declare? Does anyone want to challenge a counselor's right to consider this application? If not, then the city planner will now submit a report.
Thank you, Chairman and fellow council members. Matt Straight presenting for the agenda item for staff. The project before you tonight is a private application that was brought forward by Mr. Roy Thomas, proposing a zoning code amendment to Chapter 9-01 to revise the permitted use in the general commercial zone. More specifically, he's proposing to modify one of the conditional uses that are permitted in that section in subsection 6. Currently, residential uses are only allowed in the general commercial zone when they're permitted over a permitted business. And the applicant is proposing to change that to allow residential uses on the ground floor as long as they have a separate dedicated entrance. So in order to support this project tonight, we have to show that it meets the criteria. Our staff report went through the criteria in great detail, but I wanted to focus on one of the items because staff was concerned about meeting one of the criteria, which is criteria D that pertains to economic activities. We were concerned that if this project went forward, it wouldn't include any kind of limitation on how much of the ground floor could be used by a residence. So in theory, residents could use 90% of the ground floor and leave only 10% for commercial, thus hindering the economic activities of the city. The Planning Commission grappled with this as well. And in the end of their hearing and in their recommendation to you, they are proposing to modify the applicant's request. So the applicant is proposing to modify use number 6, which currently reads, single or multi-family dwellings located on the second story of any permitted use are permitted. He was proposing to scratch the part that says located on the second story and replace it with having a separate dedicated entry. The Planning Commission wanted to leave that part, but wanted to add to the end of that sentence, where no more than 49% of the total square footage is used for residential uses, comma, as approved by the Planning Commission. So what that would mean is that you're not allowed to use more than 50% of the ground floor for residential uses. But if there's a unique circumstance, we've left the door open here. The Planning Commission has left the door open to come to them with a conditional use permit and try to argue why you need an exception to that. Without using a variance, this would allow a lot of flexibility to our Planning Commission. while still sending a clear signal to anybody who wants to develop that we're really looking for less than half of the ground floor to be used for commercial purposes. So with that, we felt it met the criteria, as well as all the other criteria that are required in our code. We're ready to go into the recommendation, but before I do that, Stephanie sent out a letter to all of the city council members earlier today, a letter of support that the city received from the Oregon Fair Housing Council. And it just said that they appreciated our research and our findings as they tied to goal 10, which is the housing goal. So with that, staff and the planning commission recommend approval of the applicant's proposal with the modified text as stated on this presentation. I'm available for any questions. I don't know if my applicant is on the phone or not, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Is that your report,
Hobart?
then, Matt? Yes.
Yes, sir.
May I take a moment and unmute the 3 callers to see if one of them is the applicant?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Is this Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Thomas, are you out there?
It does not look like Mr. Thomas is on the line. Thank you for allowing me that.
Oh, you're welcome, Stephanie. At this time, does any counselor wish to address questions to the staff?
Mayor Hobart, I have a
Councilor
couple
Webb.
questions, if I may.
Try it again. It sounded like 3 tried to speak at the same time. I think I heard Counselor Allen first, so go ahead, Counselor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Straight, I do have a question on the applicant. It says here the applicant owns the now closed Hong Kong restaurant.
Yeah, that was my error. The applicant does not own the Hong Kong restaurant yet. He wants to buy it, and he wants to see how this code change goes first, because if this code can't get changed, then he doesn't want to buy it because he doesn't consider it a viable option for him. So that was an error on my part.
Okay, on page 2, section A, doesn't it state that you have to be the property owner or agent authorized by the owner to do this?
Not what the applicant is doing here. The applicant here is proposing to modify text for all of the general commercial zones throughout the whole city. And therefore, you don't need to own property in the city to propose a change like that. If he were changing the specific zoning designation, he would need to be the owner.
Am I reading that wrong then on section A, page 2? Says an amendment to the text of Title 9 may be initiated by City Council, the Planning Commission, or the private property owner, or authorized
You're reading that
agent.
correctly, but I think that pertains to just zone designation changes, not zone text changes, because zone text changes would apply to the whole city.
It says amendment to the text of Title 9.
Yeah, that's true. But then it goes on to say the property owner, but that's interesting because you're not changing the zoning on a property, you're changing the zoning text. I mean, Troy does own property in the city.
Well, the reason I bring this up is if the owner should be maybe in on the conversation if a said piece of property would be more valuable if this happened. I just wonder if the owner is actually up to speed on what's going on here.
Well, remember, this wouldn't impact just the property with the old Hong Kong restaurant. This would impact all of the general commercial zone, which would include the Lincoln School and 9 other acres in the city.
Well, I understand that, Matt. I'm just going by what's in front of me here. It says only certain people can do this, and I don't think that's met the criteria as far as what the paper says in front of me here.
I can certainly see that point of view, but I think the applicant has met the intent of this. Even if the property he currently owns might not be the Hong Kong restaurant, even if he owns a home in the city, it wouldn't be in that zone, but I'm not sure this should be interpreted that way.
Okay, then we'll move on to page 4. It says, in the unlikely outcome of succeeding, it would have the undesirable consequence of putting essential patronage away from the downtown zone. Was that your assessment?
If you're on page 4 for number 2,
Yeah, on page 4, down toward the bottom, third paragraph up, halfway through the paragraph.
sure. No, that text actually didn't come from me. That text came from the applicant. The applicant provides a narrative to us that explains how they feel they meet all the criteria. And in this case, we just put the applicant's narrative section directly into our staff report.
Okay.
Mayor Hobart,
Yes, go ahead, Counselor.
if I might interject. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Councilman Allen, it says under the first line under section 2, the applicant has indicated. So this is his deal.
I see that now. Thank you.
Can you,
Yeah, in this
just
case,
for
we
point
didn't
of,
feel it was appropriate.
this is a point of inquiry. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead, Counselor.
this is a point of inquiry to council. Thank you, Councilman Allen. Could you go back through? Don't go back through in detail, but when you were speaking about in the prior deal, what were the pages and just state the page and the subsection.
Oh, when I first talked about the applicant?
Yep.
Okay, that's
About
on
whether or not
page
it had to
1.
be the page 1.
Yeah, page 1, it says applicant Troy Thomas. Then down at the bottom, very bottom background, it says the applicant owns the now closed Hong Kong restaurant at 699 Mist Drive.
Right.
And when you turn the page to page 2, section A,
All right.
it reads, an amendment to the text of Title IX Land Development and Zoning Code may be initiated by A, City Council, B, the Planning Commission, or C, the private owner or authorized agent of the owner.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your clarification.
So can I interject something? This is Josette.
Go ahead, Josette.
So, JR, where it says that, that's in Matt's staff report, and that's kind of paraphrasing. He did not include the whole entire authorization to initiate amendment section out of Title IX, which that section says, an amendment to the text of this chapter or zone boundary may be initiated by the City Council, the Planning Commission, application by the owner of subject property, or application by one who has executed a written agreement with the property owner to acquire subject property. The request by a property owner or the intended purchaser for an amendment shall be accomplished by filing an application with the city recorder. So Mr. Thomas is an intended purchaser, as the bigger code states is allowed.
So that's not included, city administrator, in this particular information?
Right, because Matt didn't include the whole paragraph. He just
Okay.
he referenced what initiates
Yeah.
amendments.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Councilor Allen, for your clarification. Mayor,
Go ahead, Bruce.
no, I'm just done.
Okay.
I just finished. I just
Do
needed.
you have any more? Do you have any more questions, JR?
Not at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
This is
Yeah,
Counselor
I think
Wagner.
Councilor Webb had. I think Councilor Webb had a.
I would, before we continue, if please, the mayor, JR, Matt, and Stephanie and Josette could all speak a little louder. I don't know if you all can hear me clearly, but I've got my speakers at 100 and can barely hear and sometimes cannot understand what you're saying.
Okay. Can you hear me better now, Susan?
I cannot. I'm going to try
Loud and clear on
calling
my-
in instead of using the computer sound and see if that helps. But this has not been a problem with any of my other meetings. And since you're all, I think you're all calling in, that may be the issue. But let me try.
Okay,
Mayor?
Councilor Webb.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I just was going to state that I'm not having trouble hearing anybody. So, and I'm on a phone, so that might be the issue. Go ahead.
Councilor Webb, I think you had something to offer or a question to ask.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to ask Matt, so if we start using some of our commercial buildings as housing, what's that going to do to our buildable lands inventory? Is that going to have an impact on us?
After it's built, yes. There is a small assumption baked into our buildable lands inventory that assumes we're going to see some residential uses in the general commercial zone. Whether or not this is going to increase that is unclear.
Okay, so the state assumes we're doing the second story stuff. They understand that, and so that's factored in. So they might factor in a small amount, I suppose, if they know we're going to do the ground floors.
Yeah, it may increase a little bit, but since we only have 9 acres of general commercial in our city, I don't think the difference would be significant either way, one way or the other.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions from the council?
I have some.
Okay.
This is Counselor Wagner. One of the things I would like to ask if there's a possibility of setting, obviously they've made a proposal of a percentage, but if we could do a percentage or maximum square feet, whichever is less.
That question is directed to staff.
I'm not
Susan,
sure I understand where you would want that to go, Counselor Wagner.
Yeah, I don't understand either.
Do you
I
mean
didn't
after-
hear any of you what you said.
I don't understand the question, Susan. Are you wanting a percentage? They're already putting a percentage in it. The square footage would be determinant on the size of the property. So the percentage seems to match a little bit better because then it can flux with each property.
My suggestion is not basing the square feet on the percentage. I'm suggesting that it be a maximum number of square feet or a percentage, whichever is less.
So on a building that's 10,000 square feet and a building that's 2,000 square feet, how would you set the square footage maximum there? How would they relate to each other if not just only by a percentage? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Right. No, I understand that. Again, I think it is a determinant that we need, that I'm wondering if it was looked at. And I'm sorry, I have a terrible, terrible echo on my end. Are you guys hearing any of that?
A little
I'm
bit
not.
when you talk, Susan.
I have throughout the whole conversation, Counselor, that it's irritating, but I'm still able to hear.
Oh, I've taken it off speaker. Does that help?
That
It
helps.
seems to change, yeah.
That's worse on my end. I'm going to go back to the computer audio and just suffer with trying to hear you guys. Hang on.
Can you, Susan, just quickly, can you hear me?
I believe she's in the process of switching over.
I assumed that. Thank you. Counselor Wagner, this is Counselor McNair. Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Can you give me some sort of understanding of how that relates? I mean, what it is, your intent, the intention is?
Okay, so with our city administrator's comment of a 5,000 square foot versus a 2,000 square foot. So you suddenly have 5,000 square feet of living space in a building that is not, that its original intent was not to be a living space. Is there going to be a limit as to, how are we going to be managing that? Or Planning Commission going to be managing that? I just have some concerns about the potential outcomes of making this a change to our section 9. I was also a little concerned about the potential of making a property, creating obsolescence by changing. I don't think it's entirely going to do that, but we have family, or my husband has family from the Midwest, and it was very common then to have upstairs owner or manager, downstairs business, and his grandparents had the hardware store downstairs, and in Minnesota, and it was great. It's a wonderful idea. I do not disagree that it makes it more affordable for a business owner to live on their property, and it also makes a lot of sense. It creates a different environment. But I am just concerned about creating obsolescence of that particular property by creating too much living space, taking away too much of the business space, and then having to potentially change it back. I think Blue House out on the highway is one of those examples of a property that was a business, was converted to, unfortunately in its entirety, I guess the code changed for it, but they were never able to afford to change it back because it was too costly to do so. And I just want to make sure that we're not doing a disservice to that building and to the neighborhood that it serves by allowing too much of a change. And I hear the 49%. Is that reasonable? And I don't know. I don't know if 49% is the magic number. And I'm thinking about that property, and you've got an upstairs and a downstairs. And I'm not sure that's our job to think about. So forgive me if I'm stepping in it already, but they're complaining about the fact that there's no kitchen upstairs. Well, allowing more living space downstairs is not going to change the upstairs living space unless they're talking about changing that into a business area. And if they're simply trading a portion of the upstairs for a portion of the downstairs, maybe that makes sense. But again, I'm just a little concerned, and I disagree that with his statement that creating a viable commercial hub at that side of Vernonia is unlikely to succeed, and that it would have the undesirable consequence of pulling people from the existing downtown. So I think that's all I had to say at this moment.
Yeah, Mayor, may I
Go ahead,
respond to that?
Yes.
I guess I was under the understanding that they weren't going to make two separate living spaces, that they were just enlarging the current one.
I can speak to that a little bit if you like.
Well, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask Matt. I'm going to ask you a question too, if it's all right with the mayor if I ask. Go farther.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor. Matt, what was the original intention of the restrictions on living space? Is it what was outlined in the issue that the viability of commercial property or a vibrant commercial business?
Sure.
Or were there
sure.
were there other driving factors?
Well, let me put it this way. When staff was looking at this, first we talked to the applicant, and the applicant does plan on putting commercial uses upstairs in that particular establishment and putting his residence downstairs. That part is true. And so that's one of the reasons you see in this that it doesn't say 49% of the total ground floor square footage. It doesn't say that. Instead, what the Planning Commission is proposing is 49% of the total square footage. That way the upstairs could count towards that in a positive way. When staff was reviewing this, we looked at the current code restrictions of having residential only be upstairs, and we interpreted the intent of the code to mean that we want that the city wants the majority of the businesses to be at the ground floor. And that was one of our concerns. Actually, Councilor Wagner put it very well. One of our concerns was, let's take the Napa Auto Parts store, which is in the general commercial zone. If that went out of business and somebody replaced 90% of the bottom floor with a residence and only 10% with a fly fishing shop, then it would be very difficult to ever revert that back, and we would be slowly eroding the intent of that property on Bridge Street. And so the idea of introducing a percentage was to protect those commercial areas to remain commercial. After all, it's a general commercial zone, and the residential should always be secondary to the primary use, which is commercial. And so staff with the Planning Commission suggested that a percentage be added. We didn't suggest a specific percentage to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission had a lot of discussion and arrived at 49%, but that was something they came up with on their own.
So one added question there, is there a difference in taxing on residential as opposed to commercial?
That question came up at the Planning Commission as well, and I'm certainly no expert in the taxing, but it's my understanding that as long as it's all on one tax parcel, Josette would probably know a better answer to this than I would. As long as it stays on one parcel, it is assessed for a commercial value for that property. I don't think that they can split it up and charge different taxes on different portions of the building. But I'm not a tax expert. I couldn't say.
Or if a certain percentage, you reach a certain percentage and it becomes viewed as residential as opposed to commercial. You can't. Maybe
I don't know the answer.
Nobody seems. I don't know if anybody has that answer. Josette, do you know the difference? If there's a difference.
I'm looking it up I'm trying to look one up right now. Hold on. I'm trying to look up the mixed use.
Yeah, I guess I'm just looking for the original intent of the code, and trying to look at all the aspects of it, just as opposed to the viability of the business district, which is valued. Don't get me wrong. I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing anything. And you'd know better than I would, Matt, so.
Well, I wasn't around when that part of the code was originally written, but it's our understanding that the intent is to leave that commercial first, because that's why residential is currently relegated to the second floor only, is so that it will primarily be commercial to everybody passing by. Now, it's true, the applicant made a good argument during the Planning Commission hearing, and since he's not here, I guess I'll argue his point for him. He was trying to argue that the intent of having most of the bottom floor be commercial is to attract foot traffic. And it's true that on that end of town, you're never really going to attract foot traffic. It's primarily going to be an auto destination where people will drive there and park their car to frequent the business. And so that's a decent point. But I still think the idea is to have that zone remain commercial first, residential second.
Yeah, Bruce, it looks like they roll it all just into commercial. They do list that there's apartments above, but they're not broken out. Just
I guess
under commercial.
My question, Josette, is does commercial have a higher tax rate?
Oh, okay. Hold on.
That was just my question.
I do know that the taxing does go with the actual use of the property. It doesn't respect the zoning. So the taxing people don't care what the zone is. If it's all residential, they're going to tax it as residential.
Right. And maybe my question is mute. I can't think of, Mayor, I can't think of any more questions that I have. So with that,
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Does any other council members have a question for the staff?
I do have one follow-up question. How did they come up with the 49%? Was that done with any type of comparison to other communities or buildings, or how did they come up with that?
No, that is a great question. We were talking about the idea that the majority of the building should remain commercial. And so they arrived at the majority being 51%. It's that simple.
Matt, this is the mayor. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Susan.
I'm just not sure that is by coming up with a majority because it's the greater percentage. I'm not sure is necessarily the correct number. I truly appreciate that they thought that through, that they realized that that was something they wanted to add into it. But I would be more comfortable personally if there was a reason or something to back up this 49-51 split, or, but that's just my personal opinion and thought.
Mayor, I have one follow-up question, Councilor Allen, if I may.
Go ahead, Councilor Allen.
And this would be for Matt or staff or anybody that could answer it. Back when they set up these codes, I have a feeling that health and sanitation was a big factor. And I'm just wondering what effect that would have if somebody wanted to put a restaurant in and the living quarters were on the same floor, if that would play into a denial or acceptance of another food establishment.
Well, no, I think that mixed use was part of the desire when the code was originally written, and it's very common in a mixed use facility to have a restaurant and a residential dwelling be next to each other or on top of each other, one way or the other. I think that's very commonplace. You're right. Once upon a time, I think zoning codes were set up that way, but I think we've come such a long way that by the fact that they have to get licensing from the health agencies from the counties in order to open restaurants, I'm not sure that's as much of a concern anymore.
But you can't
Well,
answer
and
with a yes or no.
we currently have a building that has an apartment in the back and a restaurant in the front on the ground floor.
Yeah, Island Grill, and I don't know what the second one that Councilor Wagner's referencing, but it's fairly commonplace.
It's La Cabana is the one I was referencing, Matt. This is Josette.
Oh, Islands also has the apartment upstairs and the restaurant downstairs.
Right. La Cabana has an apartment above it and behind it.
Okay. I was just kind of thinking of fire code. I kind of deal with firewalls and that kind of stuff, so I didn't know what effect that would have. I guess if you're going to put a kitchen in, you're going to have to do different things.
That's correct. Yeah, there's certainly ways in the building code to address those kind of circumstances where those are built within close proximity to each other or within the same building. Just firewalls of different ratings between them, things like that.
Matt, do you know that?
Mayor Hobart.
Go ahead. Sorry, Mayor. I interrupted.
Well, this is Mayor Hobart, Matt. If we pass this amendment, does it affect? Of course, it'll affect the Lincoln Grade School and the Chinese restaurant, but will it affect the same zoning code for the downtown corridor? Will be lumped into this too?
That's a great question, Mayor, and no, it would not. The downtown section of our code is in the downtown zone, and they're not actually proposing this change in the downtown zone, just the general commercial. But you're correct that it would affect the old school for certain, and then a few buildings near Napa Auto Parts there, and a couple of properties on the corner of Bridge and Rose, kind of right there on the corner, which aren't in the downtown, oddly enough, next to the old gas station. And then a few other properties on the other side of the bridge, near the old Hong Kong restaurant. But that would be it. And if you decide to go forward tonight, sorry, I was stating that before, so we'll have to bring back an ordinance for you to adopt at a different time. We didn't bring the ordinance forward this evening because we just wanted to get a tentative action this evening, and then we'll bring the ordinance back for a final action if you so desire.
Okay. That's the only question I had. If there's no other questions from council, we can move on. Are there any participants that have any questions for staff tonight? Stephanie?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Are there any participants from the public have any questions for the staff?
There is no one from the public here to testify, but further down in your script is where they would do it if they were here. But there's no one in the lobby.
Okay, so we can move down. If there's no other questions for staff from council, can we move down to the testimony in favor?
I believe so. And then
Okay.
Stephanie can unmute everybody on the phone to see if any of them have any testimony.
Okay. Testimony will now be heard from those in favor of the application. Each speaker will have 5 minutes. Please step forward. Well, in this case, tune in or unmute, stating your name and mailing address for the record. Then proceed with your testimony.
All right, I'm going to cycle through the 4 people that are signed in or called in. Corey, would you like to speak? Dawn, would you like to speak? And would any of the other callers like to speak?
Sorry, I finally figured out how to unmute. This is Corey. I don't have anything to say at this time. Thank you.
Thanks.
What?
Dawn, would you like to testify?
No, I'm okay, Stephanie. I thought I was unmuted, but apparently I wasn't. I've just redone it again. Thank you.
And the other 2 callers?
No, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and remute you guys. And we're good to go.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Testimony will now be heard from those opposed to the application. Each speaker will have 5 minutes, stating your name and mailing address for the record. Then proceed with your testimony. Okay, Steph.
I'm going to assume that they're saying that they didn't have anything to say was for neutral, in favor, and opposition.
Okay. So moving down to the final call for testimony, does anyone else wish to submit oral testimony before the applicant has the final opportunity to respond? Would the applicant like to respond to any of the facts introduced by those opposing the application or any statements made regarding the proposal? Is there a request by any of the participants or the hearing body to continue this hearing to another date and time to consider new evidence or because of the complexity of this proposal? Okay, then with that being said, I will close this hearing now to testimony and new evidence at 7:50 p.m. Public hearing is now closed. Now we're at the point where council deliberation of Public Amendment 20-02. Any deliberation?
Mayor, this is Councilman McNair. I have nothing further to add.
Okay. Any other counselors wish to deliberate?
This is Counselor Wagner. I believe that I shared all my concerns when I spoke earlier. I don't know if they have to be repeated or not.
Okay, would anyone like, with that being said, if there's no other deliberation, would anyone like to entertain a motion to move forward with this amendment?
This is Counselor Wagner, but I'm sorry. Were we going to ask planning to identify how they could, to be assured that the 49.51% number was a viable number, or are we just accepting it as is?
This is Councilman McNair. Mayor?
Go ahead, Bruce. Yeah, go ahead, Councilman.
Without any other information as to the percent, dealing with the percentage, I'm not probably not as troubled by it. I would be willing to move ahead. So with that, I relinquish my time.
This is Counselor Allen. Mayor, can I make a comment, a follow-up on
Yes.
Counselor Wagner's concern?
Yes.
If I'm reading this right, Counselor Wagner, or listening right, you're concerned with the 49%, or at least say like 400 square foot left over for business, or you wanting? I think that's what you're trying to say, and I'm just looking for confirmation on that.
I just was concerned that based on the size of the building, that it might be detrimental to a commercial business appearance by allowing that type of 49.51% split.
I got you. Currently, I believe there's someone living there. It's kind of a mess around there, so I don't know who that is, but I definitely see your concerns. You get too many people living in an area and it becomes more like a home instead of a business. So I definitely see your concern on that.
Mayor?
Go ahead,
Councilman McNair. A question for Counselor Wagner, if she's open to it, or a response.
Of course,
go ahead,
yeah, I caught that. Is your issue more to do with this is just an arbitrary number? If I might paraphrase, I just mean that in as like you're looking for some reasoning behind it.
so if an example, and I don't know if this is realistic, but let's say there is a storefront that's a 500 square foot storefront building, and that there's no second floor. And they make the decision that they're going to make a living space in the back half. So they have 249 square feet or 248, 7.5, whatever it is. And the front of it is going to become very, very small. That is something that occurred in the prior Spirals building, where they blocked off most of the building to, I believe, use as living space, although I don't know for certain what they were doing behind the very front of it. And all they had was walk-in and 2 coolers there where you, Farm Fresh, I think it was where they first were, where you could walk in, get an ice cream or a little sandwich or a piece of fruit. And while yes, in the intent, it was a commercial space in the front, but it certainly was not equivalent to a open, welcoming commercial space or business on Main Street, on Bridge Street.
So my response would be, if it is in fact like how you stated, that it was not a very welcoming, and I'm not going to question that at all. I'm not even sure I'm familiar with what you're talking about, but wouldn't the laws of did it just go out of business? Well, it would no longer be a viable business.
Well, they're not now.
I mean, I just threw that out there. I was just trying to think of that economics takes over there. But
And I understand what you're saying about the economic portion of it. But again, if we're trying to make sure that our commercial open corridor on Bridge Street is acting as it's intended, I just want to make sure that this number of 49.51% doesn't create an issue because of the potential size of the initial occupiable space.
Can I just
Can I make a
clarify
comment?
something?
is that
Go ahead,
Counselor?
Josette.
I mean, is that Josette?
Yeah, so this is specific to general commercial, so it is not the downtown zone. It's
That answered that. I'm done. That's fine. That makes sense. Sorry.
That's okay. So it's
But
just
in
a
the
few
same vein,
properties.
but in the same vein, Josette, once you begin to allow something to happen, then you open the door to push things through. Somebody comes in and says, "Well, they're doing it there." So I realize
Well, currently they
we still have a
already are.
legislative body. Yeah.
I mean, the majority of general commercial properties are residences right now.
Well, I feel that again, the laws of economics takes over, and in the end, and when you make a business no longer appealing, shortly you go out of business, and you end up selling the property to somebody else. So. I also am finished, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I said I am also finished. This is Councilor
Okay.
McNair.
All right. Gotcha. So are we at to the point where we entertain a motion?
Let me find the damn thing.
Can I help you?
Yes, please.
If you would like to make a motion with no changes from what was proposed to you, your motion could be for staff to bring back an ordinance for adoption with changes incorporated as proposed by Planning Commission.
Councilor McNair. Is Councilor McNair mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
I'll make that motion. I'll make that motion. I think she stated it quite well.
Okay, is there a second?
This is Counselor Wagner. I'll second.
You want to call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Yes. Mayor Hobart?
Aye.
Councilor McNair?
Aye.
Councilor Wagner?
Aye.
Councilor Allen?
Aye.
Councilor Webb?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Stephanie. There's no consent agenda for acceptance. Consent agenda for approval, City Council meeting minutes for July 6, 2020. City Council work session meeting minutes for July 6, 2020.
Mayor, this is Councilman McNair,
Yes.
if I might.
Yep.
With your approval, I'd like to ask the city recorder a question.
Go ahead and ask.
Stephanie, at our meeting there, our city council meeting there on that's in the acceptance there, July 6th, 2020. We were under the order of wearing facial coverings. Did you have trouble hearing us on the tape? Did you have trouble hearing us on the tape?
I have not listened to the tape. I only listened to the tape if I... So, for example, I listen to the tape and I miss something and I make a note to myself, but the tape is not what... That's why I take notes at the meeting.
I understand. I thought maybe that might have been the problem. Under new business, under unfinished new business, we talked about the video telephone council meetings. Councilor Wagner's brought up the issue of meeting in person. And in the minutes there, you state different concerns of the counselors. You omitted what I spoke about in terms of, I made a statement for the council to show some leadership as opposed to fear. I don't see that in there.
I do not take verbatim minutes. If you would like, I can go back and listen to what was said then and propose that in the minutes, but the minutes are not a reflection of everything that was stated at the meeting.
Right. And Mayor Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Hobart? The reason that I bring it up is because I voted nay on that. And I felt that there was no explanation in the minutes as to the reason why I voted nay. So
I can't disagree with that, and I'm willing to go back and review the tape and put in what you said to justify your vote against it. If you guys
Okay,
would
it
like
doesn't have
not
to be
agree with
verbatim. It doesn't have to be verbatim. You can paraphrase.
it won't be.
I probably wouldn't have said anything, but I had a vote against, and I thought it should be explained, or an attempt to explain it in the official minutes.
Absolutely.
In the Mayor Hobart, with your indulgence, in the ordinance and resolutions, in the following deal there, we had quite a discussion about the contract, and it kind of devolved into a discussion on whether or not council had the right to gather information as it deemed fit. That there's no expression of that in here. And the reason being, again, Councilor Wagner, it says Councilor Wagner expressed concern regarding the council's review of the contract. This type of contract is in the jurisdiction of the city administrator. I think in the first part, Councilor Allen explained he read through the agreement, had several questions, and so forth and so forth, so forth. Again, I think that admitting that was quite a bit of the discussion. Now, whether or not the rest of the council agrees on that, I can't speak to it. But again, I think it's important that it was part of the official minutes.
Can I say something? This is Josette.
Yeah, I'll relinquish my time.
So, partly why I think the city recorder didn't include it is it was discussion and questioning on a contract that is not this resolution's contract, for one. So to kind of delve into the weeds about a contract that isn't the one in front, wasn't the duty at hand, so to speak. And we try to kind of avoid putting the back and forth if it isn't going to look positive, I guess, for lack of a better word. We can put it in there, but it's not gonna look.
Well, I certainly understand your concerns, Josette, but the question, the conversation really had devolved away from the issue at hand, and it became a conversation on the ability of council to be able to access information. It didn't matter what the particular item was. I guess in some sense it does. I see your point, but my point was that I thought it was something that needed to be brought up and to be discussed. We did not resolve the issue. No.
Right. So it's potentially just going to be that it went into the weeds about something that it never had resolution that council is split on. That wasn't under this heading, if that makes sense.
I think what you say makes sense, but at the same time, again,
no problem.
Yeah. Well, I have one more final thing, Mayor, if I might.
Go ahead.
In correspondence between Mrs. Bernardi, there's a couple things here. In here it says I concurred and stated this is a question for future questions. I think it was for future council.
Oh, right.
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. And I think above that it says Mrs. Thompson had an agreement to use the property while she is alive, which would allow her family to use it at the same time, something to that deal. It was a little confusing. So Doing a little nitpicking there, Stephanie.
That's what's in there, though.
That's what you wrote down, huh?
No, that's actually what's in the minutes. Are you saying that was wrong?
Oh, about future councils
No, about her
or
being
future
alive.
questions. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. I think I was the one that stated she was still alive, and that. Anyway.
I think he has an issue with so her family can still use the property.
Yeah.
She really has permission to use the property. If her family subsequently uses it with her permission, then that's one thing, I think is what he's trying to say.
With that, Mayor, I'm finished here.
Okay. Any other discussion on these 2 meeting minutes?
So are you proposing changes to have these come back, Counselor?
I would. This is Counselor McNair.
You can still approve the minutes for the work session, though.
Well, I'm only one person. Doesn't it have to be concurrence of the whole council?
Well, it would have to be a motion, but yeah.
Would anyone like to make a motion to accept these minutes with the changes and the concerns by Councilor McNair?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Okay.
Well, hold on. It would actually be, sorry. It would only be a motion to approve.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you going to make your motion then?
I'll go ahead and make it. I make the motion we approve the work session minutes and that we approve the council meeting minutes with the aforementioned changes.
Well, sorry. You don't know what the changes are yet for the meeting minutes for the regular council meeting, so you would only be approving the minutes for the work session. And I will bring back the minutes for the regular meeting with suggested changes.
All right. With that, I say I make the motion that we approve the work session minutes for, what's the date? Quick, somebody.
July 6th.
July 6th, 2020.
Is there a second?
This is Counselor Wagner.
Webb will second.
Sounds like Councilor Wagner beat you to it, Councilor Webb. You want to call roll, please, Stephanie?
Yep. Councilor Allen?
Aye.
Councilor Webb?
Aye.
Councilor Wagner?
Aye.
Councilor McNair?
Aye.
I'm sorry, you said A? Yes?
Well, yeah, aye is what I said, but aye.
Mayor Hobart?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. Is there any unfinished business?
No.
Okay. Moving on to new business. Staff report, draft lease agreement with Vernonia Seniors and Vernonia Cares. 17 through 35.
This is the staff report that I submitted to you all. Basically, the lease is very similar to the lease that the council was proposed and passed ahead of the CDBG that we had to pull back because CDBG doesn't allow us to make decisions ahead of the funding. So I'm here to address questions and concerns on it. there any questions?
This is Counselor Wagner. I am presuming that this is the same, the origins of this was from Jim way back when.
I don't have an author, but that very well could be.
I figured I have touched that, so I don't know that that creates any kind of ex parte or
I don't
any.
think it would be because it's been amended and being presented to you as a new document, so.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
So this is just a draft. It was approved by legal. It still has to get approved through CDBG and approved by the two collective tenants. Although it is very similar, if not almost exactly similar to what they signed ahead of time, they have not seen it. I did not want to take them something and have them look at it and then have council want changes and have to pull it back from them and tweak it. So you guys are seeing it first as you're the representatives of the ownership of the property, and then it will go to the others who may or may not request any tweaks to it. But just for your information, that's kind of the order of operations.
So are you looking for a motion to proceed to take this?
Mayor?
Get approval by the council? Go ahead, Counselor.
This is Counselor McNair. I have a question for the city administrator, if you might.
Go ahead.
Josette, is this a standard ground lease?
It's a little bit different. It's updated to what we have similar to the seniors' use of the VCLC. So covers us and allows us to have a little bit more involvement with how they use the building, how they attach things to it, etc.
Okay. Thank you. I'm done, Mayor.
Okay.
Counselor Allen,
Go ahead, Counselor Allen.
question for Josette. How did you come up with the base rent
So
number
which you're talking on point 2?
on 19? Yeah, 2.1.
Yeah. So we kind of had a little bit of a precedent set with the health center. And because we are asking for these two entities to contribute to the maintenance fund, we went a little below what we request from the health center to come up with the $360 per year. So the health center pays a ground lease, I believe, of $15 per month, or a total of $180 per year. But they don't have a maintenance requirement for funding because they own their building. They're just leasing our ground. So because we are requesting that these two groups put in maintenance money, theirs was a lower collective individually of the base rent per month.
And how will they be splitting these?
Say again?
How will the Vernonia Cares and the seniors split the cost out? Is it a 50-50 or has that been determined?
So that's going to be in their co-tenancy agreement. Basically, because the city is the owner of the building and to make sure we maintain services there, what we're currently looking at in that agreement, which has not been finalized between the two groups, is that they would pay 50-50 for an initial term in their co-tenancy agreement, and then that would be revisited. Because if one of them takes off and starts using it 7 days a week, then that needs to be addressed. But for the initial year, it would be a 50-50 split for water, sewer, electric, natural gas. They'll do their own telephone.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other discussion on the lease agreement? Josette, are you looking for a motion to carry this forward?
I am, but I heard Counselor Webb there.
Oh, okay. Counselor Webb.
Yes, Counselor Webb, I'll move that staff move forward with the draft lease agreement, City of Vernonia, Seniors, and Vernonia Cares.
I'll second that. This is Councilor McNair.
Second's been made by Counselor McNair. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Counselor Webb,
Aye.
Counselor Wagner,
Aye.
Counselor Allen,
Aye.
Counselor McNair,
Aye.
sorry, did I already say that? My apologies. Mayor Hobart.
Aye.
Motion carried.
So just for a little bit of information, once the other entities review it and it comes back to you, it will come with a resolution that authorizes me to sign it. That's the way we've been tracking leases, just so that they're easily attainable for city staff. So it will come with a resolution that authorizes me to sign it and kind of lays out council's intent by signing it.
Okay, thank you, Josette. And we'll move on to the staff report discussion for potential racial injustice resolution.
Okay, so that's also from me. As you guys know, the Vernonians for Racial Justice and Equality gave you a public presentation during Topics from the Floor on July 6th. During that presentation, they requested City Council to pass a resolution that addresses racial injustice. And they gave us a version of a resolution that had been passed in Lane County. Because it is a sensitive topic that really requires thoughtful discussion, staff would recommend or request that council appoint 2 to 3 members of staff and or council, and have the Vernonians for Racial Justice and Equality appoint an equal number to sit down together to draft a resolution that acknowledges those in our community who could or are victims of discrimination, and identify what we want for our community going forward, and then bring it back to you all. So I'm wondering if you guys think that's a legitimate way to go, or if council has some other direction they would like to go.
This is
I
Counselor
believe
Wagner.
we do have members.
Oh, go ahead.
Just a second, Counselor Wagner. We do have members of that group, I believe, listening in that may speak if you wanted to ask them anything.
Go ahead, Counselor Wagner.
Thank you. So I think this is an excellent idea. And I would very much like to see 2 counselors and 1 to 2 staff, if that is the pleasure of the council. And then, as you said, an equal number from the Vernonians for Racial Justice and Equality. And further, I would like to thank them again for bringing this forward. This is very, very important. And I think setting examples for the community is exactly what this will bring forward. And I am very hopeful that we're able to come to that consensus tonight as to who will be part of that team.
Mayor Hobart,
Go ahead.
maybe we would start by who wants to volunteer, who has the most time, or whatever.
Sounded
Mayor,
like,
Mayor Hobart,
yeah, go ahead.
this is Councilor McNair.
Yeah.
I would just ask that that in the interest of all parties coming together and working in a conducive manner, that we think about the community as a whole, and that they're represented equally.
So is that not, this is Councilor Wagner raising her hand. May I speak?
Yes, you can.
I had thought of that as well, but the Vernonians for Racial Justice and Equality are representative of the community. We're not just asking for a city council group of people or staff or city council and staff. It is us as representatives of council and staff, as well as the Vernonians for Racial Justice and Equality, also bringing an equal number of people, and they are, I would believe, representatives of our community.
Mayor Hobart.
Go ahead, Counselor.
And not to disagree with anything the counselor said, I just meant that this is a sensitive subject, and not everyone within, and it certainly doesn't have to do with the issue of racial inequality. Not everybody equally shares the same exact beliefs about this particular issue. I mean, it would invite incredulity to just assume that we're all on the same page on this. I don't think that's, if you look across the nation and even in this small community, there are differences of opinion to a certain degrees, and I don't think that it's anything of any great divide. I just feel that everybody in this community, not just people that vote one side or the other, if I might be so bold as to say so, that both sides are represented. If you understand, I'm trying to be delicate about this, Counselor. If you understand what I mean, I just feel it's important that everybody. It doesn't work if everybody isn't in on it. If you understand what I mean.
May I have a suggestion? This is
Go ahead,
Stephanie.
Stephanie. Yep.
It sounds like Councilor McNair would like to volunteer for the subcommittee.
Okay, you're getting back at me because I brought up some issues on the minutes. I'll be careful not to do that ever again.
I think that passionate people should meet to develop this wonderful resolution, and you have insight, and you are wanting to assure that all sides are represented, and I think that you would be a great representative of that.
Well, I think it's important that if you're going to do something like this, that it's inclusive in the sense that everybody has their say. And I don't mean that we're going to listen to extremes on either side of the issue. That's foolish. I'm just talking about issues concerning our police department. There are things in here that are sensitive, and I'm willing to speak to those issues in a cooperative manner. So if it was held in the evenings at a reasonable hour, I would be willing to step forward.
Sounds like we have two council members interested in possibly joining a staff member to form a committee to further discuss this. Am I correct?
This is Counselor Webb.
Go ahead, Counselor.
I'll throw my hat in the ring.
Okay.
Who, Mayor
So,
Hobart, who were you thinking the second person was?
Well, I thought you wanted to be on the committee.
That is true, but I had not said that, so I was kind of.
Okay,
I was wondering.
I apologize. I apologize.
Oh no,
Susan, there seems to be some bold assumptions being made.
Yeah.
We've both been the subject of them.
I'll restate my statement. I apologize for that, Councilor Wagner. I would like to ask at this time who would like to take part in this committee to look at the racial injustice or to go forward with this along with staff.
Mayor, if I might say, to formulate, because I think we all agree that
Formulate, yeah.
You know, yeah. I don't think there's any question on that issue.
Right.
I think that there's room for 3 councilmen.
3 is a meeting.
And have a meeting.
Well, the whole point of it being 2 would be that it isn't it's a public meeting, but it's not like a recorded council meeting. So these sensitive discussions could take place and not necessarily have people hindered because they're not able to talk about it.
Yep. So we have 2.
3, if Dale wanted to as well.
So you have 3.
So
Dale, if you would like to do this, Susan, I'll step aside.
I think it should be drawn from a hat because I think all 3 of us have some very unique and different perspectives on this.
I appreciate that, Susan. That sounds thoughtful.
So do you want us to put the 3 names in a hat and the mayor can come in and pull 2 names tomorrow?
Why don't we do that? We'll put 3 names in the hat, and I could come in tomorrow and select 2. How's that sound?
And who's going to be the staff members? Josette, are you going to volunteer?
Sure. I mean, I believe probably, I'm happy to do that.
Are you?
When Susan talked about 2 staff members, potentially that would be Stephanie and I if it were 2 staff members, because she would be the one drafting the resolution. So if you want one of us, he can pull one of our names out of that. And if you want 2 of us, then I believe we're both willing. Is that correct, Stephanie?
Oh, I did. I wasn't trying to restrict the number. I just was saying that asked that if you were going to be one of them. Stephanie would be a good choice, in my opinion, along with the city administrator.
This is Councilor Wagner again.
Are you willing?
Go ahead, Councilor Wagner.
Thank you. And I'm not dismissing maybe I am dismissing the city administrator's comment. I'm not intending to. But is there a reason you are only looking at the 2 of you as part of this discussion? Or which is fine if it is because you are the most representative. I don't know. I don't know what the intent of this group is other than to get together to talk about this and sit down and draft a resolution.
Councilor Wagner, if I might interject, I think the city administrator is a good facilitator. It's been my experience. She does a good job of that. And I think she outlined the city recorder's role in this. So I'd have to concur with her opinion.
So Susan, I do understand. I have not if you're thinking of getting insight from Chief, I haven't spoken to him about his willingness to be on something like this. If you're thinking it has to do somewhat with police, which it could potentially, it's a public meeting. So there's not really any restriction from having like a public comment period where if the public did want to come and give the group of people trying to draft this their insight, I think that's potentially where we would have a spot where they would come in and have that ability. So, but I have not talked about Chief with participating, and I did not pose it like to the entire staff, if that's what you're asking.
The reason I'm asking the question is because this is a very, this is something that has huge investment on the part of our community and has been brought forward by a group that has really stated their goals very clearly. And I'm not saying that because you know how I feel about you. You're an amazing facilitator, and Stephanie is extremely skilled as a city recorder. I'm just wanting to make sure that if we are talking about this group being representative to be identifying a resolution or coming forward with a resolution that, as you said, acknowledges those in our community who are or could be victims of discrimination, is it important to offer the opportunity to other staff as well to participate in this, not just as it's not an afterthought, but after completion of the initial draft resolution, that then they're being asked to participate.
So do you have some staff person in mind?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I don't know your staff. I'm just trying to I'm just trying to be thoughtful about who we are offering the opportunity to participate in this, or it could simply be that that you are acting as staff and facilitator to this process. And then that's different than having two staff members who are participating in the process.
So I just received a text from Chief saying he's willing. So if it is addressing the bigger national picture, the Chief of Police is willing to sit on the committee. So you could appoint him.
I don't know
if you would like us there as staff, and then you would like the bigger staff to have commenting rights and appoint a couple staff persons that are participating and some of us that are doing the administrative tasks, we're fine with that. We're just proposing this as an option because we do believe it's bigger than conference call and needs to be face-to-face and represent what our community looks like going forward and be meaningful, not just be a blanket statement carbon cut from someone else.
And I agree to that.
So,
I mean, that's absolutely my feeling as well. And again, maybe I am overthinking this. It's possible. I just want to make sure that when we're talking about creating a group to be discussing it, that we're not just defaulting to you two. You two may be the best people. I'm not saying you're not. I just want us to be thoughtful about how we're doing this and what your vision was for this proposal, I guess, is also something I haven't brought up yet, but now I'm asking.
Honestly, Susan, my proposal was I wanted staff members that were going to be thoughtful. And honestly, I believe there's members of staff as well as members of the community who don't see this as an issue. They're not affected by it. They don't see it in their regular lives, and it would be harder for them to acknowledge what this group is trying to say in participating.
I'd have to concur with that. Mayor Hobart.
Go ahead.
We certainly, evidently, we're constrained by meeting rules, state public meeting laws, to how many counselors we have at the meeting, but we're certainly not restricted by staff. So if 3 staff members were there, I'm failed to see how that would be an issue.
This is Councilor Wagner again. I think the intent was to have an equal number of persons from each group. Unless, Josette, your thought is that we have, for instance, 4 representatives of the city, 2 being counselors, 2 being staff, and an equal number of persons from the Vernonians for Racial Justice and Equality.
Why can't they have 5?
I think you guys come up with the number you want to represent your side, and then we ask them. They definitely have enough people to come up with their representative base.
So why would that be an issue to have 5 on each side?
To me, it's not an issue.
It's not, in my opinion. It gets big, but it's also, I think it's great opportunity for everyone to discuss, and you get more opinions that way and more visions that way. It just makes the work harder, which I have no problem with.
Councilor Webb, don't we have to stay within the COVID rules? I don't think we can have more than 10.
Oh, 5 and 5 is 10, Dale.
Correct.
So is it more than 10 or less, or 10 and 10 or more?
10 or less.
I think it's, yeah.
So we're safe.
Yep.
Let's move on. Let's do this.
Okay,
Mayor Hobart, can I
do
ask
we
a question,
motion?
please?
Go ahead, Counselor Allen.
Josette, what time are these meetings going to be held?
Yeah.
We did not specify a time. It's really when the group could get together.
6 o'clock, I recommend.
If that's the case and the
6
chief is
o'clock?
participating, I would like to put my name in the hat also.
There you go.
Okay?
Mayor, you want in too?
No, I'm good.
Oh,
I'm the one picking.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he can't be in the hat.
All right.
I'm the one picking.
Well, anyway.
Yep.
So,
Thanks
so
for asking, Albert.
Mayor, I would ask for that the council, if there's concurrence with this, and so we can move forward.
Okay, do you need a motion, Stephanie, or can you get a general consensus?
General consensus is fine by me.
Okay, you want to take the roll call then on that?
So the general consensus is the 4 counselors are going to put their names in a hat. The mayor's going to draw 2 of them. And you're going to have 3 members of staff present, the city recorder, city administrator, and chief of police.
I concur.
Correct.
I concur.
Anyone else concur?
Counselor Webb concurs.
Counselor Wagner concurs.
Mayor?
Yep, mayor concurs.
Okay. We're
I
good to
think
go.
We're moving on. Yep. Okay. Thank you,
Let's hope it
Joseph.
goes as smoothly. Let's hope it goes as smoothly as this did.
Yeah. Okay.
Some
Any
interesting
business from the
comments.
Any business from the departments?
No.
Okay. Ordinances and resolutions. Resolution 2020-08, a resolution of the city of Vernonia approving an intergovernmental agreement for electronic records management services. Page 41 to 50.
Okay, on page 41, I gave you guys a staff report that I believe addressed the questions and concerns you had with the Chavez contract and then the bigger contract between the state of Oregon and Chavez.
All that you're doing was identifying that people.
Yeah,
Unmuted, if you're.
I just want.
So are there any further questions? Was it clear? Did you get your questions answered?
This is Counselor Wagner.
Go ahead, Councilor Wagner.
Thank you. On page 46, termination 7.1A, I'm very pleased to see in there that we have an out based on whether or not we approve it in the budget. And other than that, I had no comment. I'm fine good to go.
Did you say you're pleased that we have an out if it's not in the budget?
What I said
the
was,
failure to receive funding.
right, so that if for whatever reason the council at some point decided they did not want to participate, that the out is simply defunding it. I'm not in any way, shape, or form suggesting that. I am absolutely happy with this. I think it's great, and I'm really excited that we're doing it. This was just a particular clause that popped out in my view as good.
I just wanted to make sure I heard you correctly for the record.
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
Point of order, Mayor.
Point of order. Go ahead, Councilor Allen.
Yeah, I'm concerned that Councilor Wagner is making assumptions that we are doing this. The vote has been taken.
No, I made no such statement. I said that our council or any other council would have an out if they so chose in the future. And I
After that,
simply stated that I was all for it.
well, I think the plural word was used that caught my ear. I apologize if I heard that wrong.
And I apologize if I said that, but I said, and I thought I said, and I'm all for it.
I think,
Okay.
as I heard it, you said that I'm glad we're doing this. I don't think you meant anything by it.
Okay, yes.
But
To clarify that point, that was not that was a proverbial we, not a specific we in that statement.
okay. Thank you for the clarification, Councilor.
Mayor
ahead,
Hobart,
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a point of personal privilege. I think it's important that we all give each other the benefit of the doubt. And I know that Councilor Allen has had had objections to some of the things he said at times, and I've had it to me. I think we all have. And I just ask that we be a little bit more, go a little easier on one another. We're all there trying to do the same thing. With that, I'm done.
Was that clarified for you, Councilor Allen?
Oh, I'm perfectly clear. Thank you. I was just wanting to clarify because I heard a word.
Okay. Any other discussion on the resolution? Any other questions? Would anyone like to make a motion to accept this resolution? 2020-08.
Councilor Webb? This is Councilor Webb.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Councilor Webb.
I'll move that we approve resolution number 2020-08, resolution of the City of Vernonia approving an intergovernmental agreement for electronic records management services.
This is Councilman McNair. I'll second that motion.
Okay, the motion's been seconded. Would you call the roll, please, Stephanie?
Okay. Counselor Wagner,
Aye.
Counselor Allen,
Aye.
Counselor Webb,
Aye.
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Counselor McNair.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, resolution 2020-09. A resolution of the city of Vernonia adopting a policy on the extension of water service outside of city boundaries and outside of the city urban growth boundary. Can be found on page 51 through 53.
There isn't there okay, go ahead.
This resolution is brought to you tonight by me. Since the one that was in your posted packet, there is an amended one from City Legal. Very minor changes, but I will outline those for you. Under Section 3A, he added at the end of that paragraph, provided. Then under Section 3A2, at the end of that paragraph, he added and. Then under Section 3B, he did the same changes. He added provided and that was it.
What was the purpose for that?
To include the I, double I, and triple I as provided in the heading of A.
Okay.
Counselor Webb.
Any discussion on this?
I have one, but I think Counselor Webb went first.
Counselor Webb.
Okay, so Stephanie, then those are basically tying all three of those paragraphs together. Then they have to meet every one, correct?
That is correct.
That's good. I had a hard time hearing you when you were saying those, but I got the gist of what was going on. I'm done, Mayor.
Any other discussion?
I have a comment, Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Counselor Allen.
Page 52. Second paragraph, it says City of Vernonia Fire Department standards. I wasn't aware we had a fire department. As far as the city of, I thought it was a rural Vernonia Fire Department.
What that is saying is that there is a fire department in the city of Vernonia.
It covers the city of Vernonia.
Correct.
Their standards.
I see what you mean, but I was just just thinking out loud, I guess, that we didn't have a City of Vernonia Fire Department.
Yeah, technically you could quite possibly cause trouble there.
That's what I was kind of thinking. Someone say, we don't have a City of Vernonia Fire Department.
There may be something in the exchange of moving from the city, because at one time it was the city of Vernonia, and when they went to the rural, there may be something that covers that in an agreement. Dale, could you speak to that?
Well, I don't know if I can speak to that. I mean, that's what occurred, so.
I suggest a change.
So. Yeah.
If you're worried about it stating that there is a City of Vernonia Fire Department, my suggested change is to state that fire hydrant spaced according to fire protection standards.
Yeah.
So can I actually propose a different change?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Because the city public works standards do address fire hydrants, what if we just put according to the city/Vernonia Rural Fire Department standards?
Yeah.
Because both of us have standards that are written down with the hydrants.
Yep.
So eliminate the word of and just put a dash in there.
Yeah. Or a slash, probably. Both entities.
Yeah. Right. That states it more.
Rural Fire Department standards.
Yeah.
Sounds fine.
Is it Rural Fire Department or Vernonia Rural Fire Department?
Pardon me?
Vernonia Rural Fire Department.
Yeah, that's what
VRFD.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, it's Councilor Webb then.
Go ahead, Councilor Webb.
I'll move that we adopt resolution number 2020-09, a resolution of the City of Vernonia adopting a policy on the extension of water service outside of city boundaries and outside the city urban growth boundary, with the amendment on section 8 that the fire hydrant spaced according to the City of Vernonia / Vernonia Rural Fire Department standards.
I'll second that motion.
Second's been made to the resolution. Motion. Stephanie, would you like to call roll, please?
Mayor Hobart,
Aye.
Councilor McNair,
Aye.
Councilor Wagner,
Aye.
Councilor Allen,
Aye.
Councilor Webb,
Aye.
motion carried.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 2020-10, small city allotment grant application. Be found on page 54 to 56.
Okay, so this is the application we're looking at by the 31st of this month for the next round of small city allotment money from the Department of Transportation. Staff has identified, as you see on the map, Spencer Avenue, Alabama Avenue from Riverside Drive to Locker Road, and Weed Avenue from Cougar Street to Umatilla Street. Are there any questions?
This is Councilor Webb for Stephanie.
Good, Councilor.
Yes, Stephanie, since I live on one of these streets, am I in common with everybody else and can vote on this, or do I have a potential conflict of interest?
They're not doing Locker Road.
Would you like me to answer?
Yes, please.
I would declare a potential conflict of interest, but you can still participate and vote with a potential.
Okay, so this is Councilor Webb. I'm going to declare a potential conflict of interest.
Potential.
Potential, yeah.
Duly noted, Counselor.
Well, the councilman lives on Locker Road, not Spencer or Alabama. I can see where it connects up, but I certainly don't have an issue with that. That road, those two roads need work.
Josette, this is Mayor. I've got a question about choosing the two streets, Spencer and Alabama. We're in our plan when we repaved B and last year. Didn't we have a plan to do the certain area streets? I could understand why maybe weeds gonna on the plan this year because of the new senior center and food bank, but was there a reason why we jumped up to Alabama and Spencer rather than? My question was, were there other streets down there off state that we had in the plan to complete rather than jumping all over the place?
There was, Mayor, but the criteria changed in what they will fund with this funding. So they currently want only things that are, the projects that are getting funded are majority, or their criteria is capacity issue, vehicle safety, or pedestrian safety issues.
Okay.
So that's why these ones were chosen over ones where, yeah, it'd be nice to have an overlay over it to tie up a whole section of town, but it's risky to put those in as the application because it might not hit the criteria and that then thus might not get funded. So we looked for ones that would meet their criteria.
Mayor Hobart.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to address the issue that you talked about, and when we set up the plan on our streets plans, we also were trying to establish our own fund to do it in-house. And I believe there probably is there not some being done with the money that we currently have available.
So
from our revenue sharing.
In this fiscal year, I believe there is going to be part of an overlay that is our money. This next application, all these streets should be covered with their money, leaving our money aside.
Okay. Now this year we did Umatilla, River. Those were those grant funds, or was that done in-house?
Grants. Umatilla, River, and Arkansas.
So what have we done with our revenue sharing funds that we have that on street improvements?
We don't. Well, for one, some of that money is going to the crack sealing equipment and the supplies to start doing that ourselves. The other reason we don't typically spend that down is because we don't know what money is going to be necessary in streets and would maybe potentially need to be shifted during the winter.
So right now, currently in the budget, I thought at one time we had a fairly substantial amount of money in there in our revenue, in our fund, our side of it.
We did have that year where we doubled up, but let me get to the fund here for this coming year.
Okay, or I could have done it.
I don't believe that rolled over, Bruce, but let me. So, proposed
streets, let's see, 43.
You just have 30,000 in contract services. of our own
Okay,
money
well,
this year.
so I've got 46 streets and pathways. Is there money in a reserve?
No, there is money in an SDC.
Yeah, that's different. That's not what I was looking at. Okay, Josette, we can talk about this maybe in our one of our future sessions. Speaking to
Okay.
you and I in one of our meetings. I don't mean to take up the council's time on this. Yeah,
I don't have any further questions.
Counselor Webb, I have one.
Go ahead, Counselor Webb.
So, Josette, on the end of Spencer, there's really that 1 acre divided up into 3 different potential houses down there. How are we going to deal with that? I sure wouldn't want to pave the street and then have to cut into it to get the infrastructure. Is staff proposing stubbing out or doing something ahead of that project? Doesn't seem like they're moving down there.
Yeah, so this funding, Dale, wouldn't be available to us until next spring, right? Because we're applying for it now. It goes through the fall funding cycle, and then they let you know, and then you have more time. But potentially, we would not be going off onto that little leg. Does that make sense? He has it, the 710 gets you to the dead end portion. But if they're not ready, we can't really force them to stub out or do any crossings. We would put in what we know we need there, but we couldn't force them to do something ahead of, they may cut through it at some point, but that would really only affect those homeowners in the long run. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it'd be great if they could get it all
by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you cut out there, but yeah, that's my concern. You know, that's what everybody really has a hard time with when we lay new asphalt and then we turn around and cut into it. So I'd like to see if those houses aren't built out by then. Staff needs to take a hard look at that to try to mitigate that circumstance. Whatever we can do, if it is even we don't finish the paving out to that end or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking here. I believe we have all of our stuff ready there. Let me pull it up here. It's going to take a minute for it to drop down. But I believe the weird leg, it would just be their individual connections. Their single water lines, basically. Hopefully they'll be going on that and it'll be in. Water.
Yeah, I just want.
I didn't hear that, Dale.
I just wanted. I'll keep talking. I just wanted to raise that issue. I don't know if there's any other potential building in there now. I think that street might be full up after those 3 go in.
I believe it's pretty much built out. I mean, there's always across the, kind of down a little bit across, there's some property there, but it already has a meter in front of it, so it wouldn't need to cut in.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, does anyone want to, if there's no other discussion, make a motion to accept this resolution?
So moved.
This is Counselor McNair. I'll second it.
Did you catch that, Stephanie? All I heard was Counselor Wagner was, I move.
I think she
Correct.
said so
Counselor
moved.
Wagner.
Okay, Stephanie, do you want to call roll, please?
Yes. Counselor Allen?
Aye.
Counselor Wagner?
Aye.
Counselor Webb?
Aye.
Counselor McNair?
Aye.
Mayor Hobart?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, correspondence. League of Cities 2021 legislative agenda ballot.
Okay, this
Stephanie?
staff report comes.
Oh, go ahead.
This staff report comes from me. This is Josette. So I will be the one submitting it on behalf of the ballot and the city of Vernonia's picks. And so I'm hoping everyone got a chance to read through what the different legislative objectives are. And I'm hoping council can come up with the top 4 you would like to mark on the city of Vernonia's ballot.
I marked 4 of them.
I marked 4 of them. Josette, can we just bring them into you as long as you submit them before the 7th
Well, no,
of
because
August?
you all have to agree on the 4.
Tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
So can I just roll and you guys tell me the letters you marked? And we'll see how close we are to 4 that agree.
That sounds like a good idea.
Okay, so Counselor Allen, what did you mark?
D as a dog.
Mm-hmm.
O.
Okay.
P as in puppy, and Z.
Okay, Mayor Hobart?
B as in boy.
Okay.
I. Next one is I.
Mm-hmm.
Next one is N. And next one is U.
Okay, Counselor Webb, did you get 4 marked?
I sure did. I have N as in Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
I got Q. I have X. And I have Z.
Okay. Counselor McNair, did you get 4 marked?
Let's see here. F.
Okay.
Q or O.
Okay.
Q
Mm-hmm.
and Y.
Okay, Counselor Wagner, did you get 4 marked?
Aye, yeah. I've just been tallying this along with you. It's kind of interesting. I was hoping there was going to be a little more consistency across these, because mine are going to, make it so that we really don't have any kind of consensus on any of them.
Okay,
So
what do you got?
I have J.
Okay,
Hang on. I have actually O. So you do have some consensus there. I have, hang on, I actually have more, so I have to make some judgment calls here. I have the X
okay,
and got that one, not that one, and B.
B as in boy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
And a whole bunch of other ones, but that's what I'm landing on.
okay. So it looks like
Like Z and O were pretty popular.
Z had one.
he had 2.
Oh, 2?
Hold on, I'm telling, yeah.
Oh, I must have
So,
heard B and instead of Z.
so F had 1, I had 1, 2, 2. Okay, so the ones that stand out, the 2 or more, so B, broadband infrastructure and technical assistance funding had 2. N, long-term transportation infrastructure funding had 2. O, low-income energy efficiency and affordability programs had 3. Q, mental health service delivery had 2. X, state highway funds formula had 2. And Z, water utility rate and fund assistance had 2. So we have one that has 3, so I'm potentially that's a majority of you. So O gets in. And then the other ones, B, N, Q, X, and Z, all have 2. Are there 3 of those 5 you guys can agree on? Or not?
Given the state of
Counselor Webb.
issues at hand that are out there today and what we were just talking about, forming a committee, mental health service delivery, I don't know, that seems to stand out.
I actually considered that one
Counselor Webb.
too. This is the mayor, Bruce, and I'm okay with the mental health.
This is Susan, and I am as well. It was one of my alternates. We do have some services here. Obviously, we need more, but supporting that would be a good thing.
Well, it would help to alleviate the issue with the police having to deal with mental health services, I suppose. I don't know. That was my quick thought. they're not equipped to do it.
So is there consensus that you guys would pick Q as well as one of your picks?
That is a yes from me. Council Wagner.
Yes for Councilor McNair.
Yes for the mayor.
Yes, for
Yeah, I'm fine.
So there's 4 there.
Okay. So we have B, broadband, N, long-term transportation infrastructure funding, X, state highway funds formula, and Z, water utility rate and fund assistance. Is there anyone that wants to champion and say a reason for one of those?
Well, I think 2 of us picked Z because we know there's a lot of people that struggle to pay their utility bills. That's what I'm getting out of Z. I might have read it wrong, but
Councilor Webb.
I'd like,
I also picked.
go ahead, Counselor.
Also picked Z. Partially because of the rate thing, but if you read more in depth in there, there's more funding for water infrastructure, future development, and that's something our city would definitely benefit from. I also was X, I think, had 2 for the state highway fund formula. I'm wondering if that might be a double-edged sword, Josette, because right now we're receiving pretty good funding. I'm wondering if they reformulate that, it could actually backfire on us. Any insight into that?
I don't have insight on how they're breaking that down or whether or not they may change it and require a match. I don't foresee them taking away from the smaller, least populated counties, but they could turn it to Metro and do all the highways around Metro. You know, use that money to go towards more populated areas. They currently separate a section of that money for the underpopulated counties. So I don't know. I haven't heard any kind of inklings on it from the League of Oregon Cities. There's been no kind of article. Typically, sometimes they put out little blurb articles of kind of where they think the legislature is going on something, but they haven't. Like said, oh, all of a sudden the state's going to get 70% and everyone else is going to take a hit or anything like that.
Mayor Hobart.
Go ahead, Counselor.
I'd like to return to the question of a Z on a water utility rate and fund assistance. Councilor Allen asked a question. Does anybody have any clarification on that? That it increased funding for low income? I have to apologize. I didn't read through this.
Yeah, it speaks to that, Bruce.
Well then,
the water funding assistance for ratepayers are experiencing ongoing or recent economic hardships. So it
given
let's talk about.
Given that, and given what you pointed out, Dale, with the infrastructure issues, funding on that, I would be behind Z.
This is the mayor. I would consent to that also.
Okay, so I'm hearing Allen, Webb, McNair, Hobart are okay with Z. Susan, do you concur with
if that is, sure. I mean, there is some funding already, but I understand the need right now. And if that is going to be an immediate action that they're going to be able to fund by supporting it, I think it's great. If it's something that they're not going to be able to push through quickly, then I would not be. But I will go with with my fellow counselors on that one.
So we have 2 out of 4 now.
Well, one of the things
I would
I
like
really
to-
liked
3 out of
about
4.
yeah, we have 3 out of 4. One of the
Okay.
things I
Yeah,
really
I would-
liked about. Can I finish my thought?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Well, I was, when I first read the broadband infrastructure, the first thing I thought of was the lack of Wi-Fi for our students in this Vernonia area. And so I marked it. And I know there's a kind of a push coming out of the county and a couple of the commissioners for broadband to be more prominent in the area. So I would kind of like the council to consider that one. See what you think about it. That's just my opinion. Hello?
I have no opinion either way on that, Mayor. So
Yeah.
I'll go along with the consent, the majority.
Susan, could you offer any more to that broadband infrastructure?
Only what I've
Okay.
heard Henry talk about. They've done a lot of tracking from people wanting, participating in an app where you take your phone, and if you are not able to access broadband, you tag it, and when you get to an area that does have broadband or Wi-Fi, then it uploads that information. I know Henry has been working very, very diligently on that. I know that it is important. I don't know if there isn't a push from other supporters that it's going to be successful, simply because, being the redheaded stepchildren that we are as rural communities, it's harder to get things like that pushed through. So if that is something that League of Oregon Cities is really, truly willing to take on, I think that it's a really positive thing.
Yeah, I do too. Well, anyway, whatever you guys want to come up with, one more thing. But
I see your point, Mayor, and I agree. I don't know if the reality is going to push through very quickly. That's why I marked D on the COVID-19, since there seems to be more money floating around for that. And I was hoping to get
Yeah.
some here in our town, or some more maybe. I don't know how long this is going to stretch out, but it doesn't seem to be going away soon.
no. Were there 2 picks on the COVID?
No, so the ones
Go ahead, Council.
the ones you had 2 picks on were B, broadband, N, long-term transportation infrastructure funding, and X, state highway funds formula.
And D or both, I could see value in those. It's a toss up with it for me.
So this
Councilor
is,
Webb, did you have any?
Councilor Webb.
Wagner.
I'll switch my vote off of the long-term transportation infrastructure funding to the B broadband infrastructure. So that should give us 3.
Well, you'd get
Okay, does
effectively it'd be Josette, if I might.
Yep.
It effectively give you 4, Gail. As I said, I would go with the majority.
Alrighty.
So do I have it that Hobart, Webb, McNair, and Wagner are okay with B?
That is a correct statement.
Correct.
Okay,
I would
so I
would prefer the other 2, but I'm outvoted.
Okay, so I have O, low-income energy efficiency and affordability programs. Q, mental health services delivery. Z, water utility rate and fund assistance. And B, broadband infrastructure and technical assistance funding. Those are the 4 picks for the city of Vernonia.
Appears so.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that all you need, Josette?
That's it. I'll fill out your ballot and send it in.
Okay. Okay, we're done with correspondence. Items from the mayor, councilors, and city administrator. I don't have anything right now. City councilors?
This is Counselor Wagner. One of the things that I think we need some guidance on as a council, or I would like to see us discuss or have a presentation from our city recorder on, is what the intent and guideline is on minutes. Because I know that there is a difference, having been a corporate secretary at one time and a paralegal and doing minutes for various committees, etc. I know that there's certain guidelines as to what you should and should not be doing, or what we should and should not be doing in our minutes. And I think that it would help me to understand why they look the way they do and why they have what they have in, and then maybe find out if we're doing too much in the way of minutes. Because the problem is, as we heard tonight, things were wanting to be added in because they were left out. But the question is, do we simply say there was discussion, and anybody who wants to listen to what that discussion is should be listening to the meetings, which are now available online. And so that's something I'd like us to formally talk about at a future meeting. I just came up because of the discussion earlier in our meeting today.
Mayor, this is Councilman
Yes, go ahead.
McNair. I'd like to respond to that, if I might.
Go ahead.
I think it's important that whatever's pertinent to the conversation in terms of what each individual counselor speaks about, and if it's definitely pertinent to the vote that they took, that should be included in those minutes. It doesn't have to be verbatim, but it should not be ignored because it might reflect badly. Good, bad, or otherwise, it's a public meeting. And my voice counts as much as yours does, and as much as the mayor's, as much as the other 2 councilmen. And your voice, Councilman Wagner, counts as much as my voice and the other 3 councilmen. And that's what I'm speaking to.
And I appreciate that. That was to what is pertinent to one person is not pertinent to someone else and could be read differently by any number of people. In fact, to address what you just said, when I look at what you said, in writing, I look at it as in favor of doing the doing the meetings virtually. So it is all from perspective, and what one person sees as X, somebody else sees as R. I mean, it's a matter of perspective, which is why minutes traditionally have either been complete transcripts or simply there was discussion held. And I am not saying that any one of us carries more weight than anyone else. Of course, that is absolutely true. We are all equal on this council.
Councilman Wagner, that is, at no time did I imply that you said that. What I was stating was, and what I tried to effect was, when I brought up that in the issue in the meeting minutes, was how the effect that I thought my opinion is. It has nothing to do with what you think. It has to do with what I think in terms of that. You can disagree with me. We can sit here and split hairs on this issue. I'm just saying that if any councilman speaks to some issue, and it's especially if it's reflective in their vote, that should be in that minutes. At least to some degree, some reflection of that. That's all I'm speaking to. It's not personal. It's not about anybody in particular. It's just that I think that when you speak to issues, that this is a record that is forever, and it should be reflective of what was talked about in that meeting.
Mayor, may I add something to that?
Sure can.
I agree 100% with Councilor McNair on that particular issue.
I would add also, if we might confine this to the council here, the conversation, and then Mayor, I also respect what Councilman Wagner was saying, and I understand her concerns. I just again, I was just voicing my concerns and my opinions.
Thank you for
Councilor
Webb. Go ahead.
So I concur with Councilor Wagner that we need to have this discussion at a future time and more closely define what we want reflected in our minutes. And I definitely agree with Councilor McNair when some people are making some poignant definitions or defining their issue, that should be a little bit more reflected. Just saying we had a discussion with no flavor to it isn't informative. But we can have this discussion. I think it would be appropriate future time, and the city recorder maybe research, just kind of what everybody else does or ground rules around it, so we're all on the same page.
I'm always receptive to our city recorder's input, and the possibility of having a workshop with her about this is, I'm sure, will be informative and help us. So I have no problem with that.
Okay, I duly noted that.
So that should be on our tickler list, Mayor, to include that somewhere in the immediate near future, possibly.
Yep.
Workshop on that.
Yep, I've written it down, and I will discuss it when I meet with the city administrator next week.
Okay. It's unfortunate we can't do it on a person to person because it's always better, but we'll figure it out.
Yep, we will. I thank you for your input on that. All the counselors on input on that. Are we ready for a city administrator report?
Sure. So I just have a couple quick things. I don't have a long report tonight. The Rose Avenue building, we're waiting for final substantial completion from the architect. The locks have been changed. It's been cleaned. A good portion, if not almost all of the furniture has been assembled. The pallet racks are assembled. So we're working towards them moving in stuff sometime next week. We're also doing the paving for the current SCA grant of River, Umatilla, and Arkansas next week, the 27th through the 31st. And so those are our two big things. I did do a walkthrough with Councilor Webb to identify the trees on Webbway that are dead and looking at which ones staff is comfortable falling and then which ones we need to include sort of timber tree removal plan with the ones at Hawkins Park and the one danger tree out at Nehalem River Park. Other than that, we're experiencing a little bit of hesitation and people not totally social distancing at the pool. We do have signs up. The lifeguards are trying to remind people to, but it's kind of on an honor system, and you don't really know who's showing up with their family versus strangers. So that's a little concerning, but we haven't seen anybody, being disrespectful when they're asked to try and maintain 6 feet of distance from each other. Pretty much, we're just rolling along here. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I just have one comment, if I may, Mayor.
Go ahead,
I've been meaning to let you know I like the banner show set that went up in Vernonia, and I keep forgetting to mention that.
On the street?
Yeah, on the poles.
Yeah.
I had someone mention that to me today as well, how beautiful they looked, and they were really excited about them, and they thought they looked great.
What are we talking about?
The street pole banners?
Yeah, I'm missing something.
Look up toward the lights when you drive through town.
Okay.
Used to be those little, those colored flowers, or anyway.
Yeah, blue with tulips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we have pennants back up?
We do. We purchased these ones, and then we purchased a fall set that'll go once school starts. That's like a maroon color.
Cool. I always like those.
And then we have the holiday ones that say Season's Greetings that go up in January. So. That's all I have, Mayor, unless anyone has any other questions.
Mayor,
yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to make a comment. it seems to be that I don't know if there's anything can be done about it, but most of the noise, outside noise, seems to be coming out of City Hall. I don't know if there's any way to fix that.
What do you mean outside noise?
Just if you're sitting on my end of it, there's a lot of squeaks and squelches, and I think it's coming from your the system you're using, Josette. It seems to be seems to be its orient. You guys are you're on a speaker, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's probably it. I don't know. If we're going to continue this, we might try and maybe the quality of your phone might not be all that great.
I could hear her. I could hear City Hall just fine.
I can hear him fine, Mayor. It's just all the other outside interference, the noise.
Oh.
Just maybe I'm the only one that's. Maybe it's just maybe me.
I don't know.
No, Councilor Webb's hearing it too, and I suspicion that if everybody's not muting, we're getting a feedback echo. It sounds like.
Okay. Yeah, I try to go from speaker to hit the mute, and then when I'm talking, I try to get off the speaker, and then when I'm not talking, I hit the mute.
Okay.
I don't know. I thought maybe you might be able to get a better quality phone, Josette. Might help. Maybe not.
At City Hall?
Yeah. Your personal phone there at City Hall, your the phone you use there.
So I'm using the landline phone.
Yeah, that's what I know. I know you are.
Oh.
That's what I was talking about.
Oh, okay. Well, we can look into it.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready for an action item summary?
Sure. So I don't have, the one thing I have is that council's bringing, that staff's bringing back to you guys, a version with the amendments requested for the meeting minutes of July 6th. And then we're going to be bringing forward, once reviewed by the other entities, the resolution for the lease agreement. We're going to put the 4 names in a hat, and the mayor's going to come in and draw 2 of them, of the interested council members, and then we'll be contacting the Vernonians for racial justice and equality group to pick their members and set up a day and time to meet. Potentially 6 o'clock in the evening is what we're trying to aim for. And then we're going to be bringing you back a, oh, I'm missing it. Hold on here. Oh, the ordinance for the Title IX amendment. And that's what I got, unless someone else has something else.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph. Anybody have anything?
Mayor?
Go ahead, Counselor.
I just like to say that I had the opportunity to go through the senior center with the city administrator there last week, and it's quite the building. I think that Vernonia should be proud of that building, and all the councils, past and present, and the staff that worked with the senior center on that should all be proud of what's down there. It's an amazing building.
Yes, it is, and I totally agree. And thank you for that added acknowledgement, Counselor.
I encourage all the rest of the counselors to go through it and look at it. It's pretty cool.
Okay. I will adjourn
If I
this
may.
council meeting. Go ahead.
Sorry, I had a comment submitted to me on the GoToMeeting platform and was requested to read it to you guys when it was appropriate. Corey with the Racial Injustice Group, she asked if I would convey this to the rest of the group. She said, thank you, counselors and city staff, for your thoughtful consideration and willingness to create a racial justice committee. VRJE is excited to embark on this work with you. That's it.
Outstanding.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no other business, I would like to adjourn the meeting at 10 o'clock p.m. Meeting adjourned.